Transform. That's what we're talking about here on the Professional Edge. Transform, make a thorough or dramatic change. My name's Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner, and I appreciate your time for listening in here on the Professional Edge. And what do we mean by transform? Well, that means make a thorough or dramatic change in what you're doing. And when we think about that, we need to, A, change things for ourselves. And initiate that change, you have to take action. So we only have about 2 weeks left here in 2021, and that New Year's resolution of getting your estate plan done and in place would be a transformation. That is a thorough or dramatic change, to have nothing into something. So again, to start that process, you can give our office a call at 877-654-9798, or you're welcome to visit our website at emcadvisors.com. That is Echo Mary Charlie Advisors.com. And on the right-hand side, there's an ultimate estate planning guide. That's a great initiative to start the process to make that thorough or dramatic change to get your estate plan done. Now, unfortunately, half of all our listeners here on the Professional Edge do not have any sort of estate plan in place. And that's unfortunate because we all know that we are not getting out of this alive. So again, what's the process to begin with? Well, you have to have some decision makers. If you're unavailable to make your own decisions, let's say a severe auto accident, and that person would step in, but when you recover, then you step back in to make your financial decisions. We also have another estate planning document, which all of our listeners should have, and that is an advanced healthcare directive. And again, if you go in surgery, the doctor's office always asks if you have an advanced health care directive. Well, if you transform and you take initiative, then you can answer that question. Yes, I actually do have that. That's part of my estate planning document set. So that's another document that all our listeners should have as part of their estate plan. And then the final one is either a last will and testament or a revocable living trust. Now, we've talked about that on different times and occasions on the difference between a will and a trust. And just to basically boil that down, last will and testament gives your plan of distribution, who's going to be your decision makers, and then who is actually going to receive your estate. Pretty simple, straightforward. But you have to remember, that's a do not pass, go directly to probate on that. So if you are okay with having your affairs, your estate basically being a public display of information, then a last will and testament will accomplish that. Now, if you would own a condo down in Florida on the Panhandle and you're a resident here in Georgia, well, we're going to have ancillary probate, which is a probate estate in Florida, to garner that deed to the new beneficiary. And then after that, we're going to have to, continue to probate the estate here in Georgia. So that is known as ancillary probate. One way around that is to determine the title on that real estate. That's number one. Or number two, you would plan your estate with a revocable living trust. And I'm a huge proponent of having a revocable living trust as being your ultimate planning document. Because if you're incapacitated, your successor trustee steps in automatically to protect your property. That's number one. And then number two, if you should pass away, then your successor trustee gathers your assets, pays your last expenses, and then distributes your estate according to the terms and conditions of your trust. So pretty straightforward. And if you would have that parcel of property down in Florida, then we do not have any ancillary probate with a revocable living trust. The other thing is it seals the display of public information. So therefore, we don't have this public display of information. And that is the other benefit of a revocable living trust. The other thing is the administration of this estate with the use of a trust is quick and painless. So we don't have to go to the probate court, get our letters testamentary. We just execute the trust because we have a successor trustee. So again, the easiest way to make that transformation to get your estate plan in force and in effect is to give our office a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. Or if you want to start the conversation in your own mind and transform, get that first step started. It's always that first step, just like a diet. You have to put down the extra bag of Doritos and start your diet. So the place to start is emcadvisors.com. That is Echo Mary Charlie Advisors.com. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see the Ultimate Estate Plan Guide. Go ahead and click that, fill in the information, and we will cover the postage and handling to get that information out to you. It's a great way to transform what you are doing. And again, when we talk about transform, that is to make a thorough or dramatic change. Now, listeners here on the Professional Edge, being a tax attorney, a CPA, and a certified financial planner, well, let's transform your taxes. Now, how are we going to actually do that? It's the last 2 weeks of this tax year. And how do we transform our taxes? Well, number one, let's start a business. The IRS defines that as your intent to make a profit. And you say, well, I got to have income. I got to show a profit. No, not in your first year. A lot of companies never make any money the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And that's okay. If you have the intent to make a profit, you want to buy an iPad, buy a new computer, you want to upgrade your cell phone. If these are business expenses associated with the starting of your business, they are fully deductible in the year in which you pay those if you are a cash basis taxpayer. So again, transforming takes action on your behalf. And why would you work with a licensed CPA? Well, we understand the tax rules. That's what we get paid to do. We can apply those tax rules to you, the client, and therefore actually reduce down your tax liability and probably going to get more value than what you pay for the service at hand. So again, we have to transform, make a thorough or dramatic change. And when we think about this on that dramatic change, let's talk about you buy a computer and you buy a laptop, or you may want an iPad as well because you're out in the field. You're going to start selling something. And with that, you also have some web design. You can go to web-based applications such as GoDaddy. That's one. These other create your own websites. So those fees that you pay for that is also a tax-deductible expense. If you travel to a meal, then we're going to get roughly 50 cents on the dollar for every mile in which you travel. So if you travel 100 miles, that's a $50 reduction in your taxable income. And if you're a W-2 employee, this is this transformation to A, get in business for yourself. And let's say we do spend $3,000 starting your business by the end of the year. Well, you know what? That $3,000 at the 20% effective tax bracket is going to save you $600. That's $50 a month. So that is one way to transform. You have to make a thorough or dramatic change. And that dramatic change starts by taking action. And your first action might be okay, this makes sense to start working with a professional that is a licensed CPA, a master's in tax, and also an attorney and a certified financial planner. Because once this business starts making money, then we change the focus and we say, okay, we're making money now, but we don't want to pay as much in taxes on that income. And where do we save this money to plan for our own retirement? Because again, the burden is on you, the listener here on the Professional Edge, to A, have your own safe and secure retirement. So let's start this business, get it producing some net income, and now let's defer that recognition of income by putting the money away for yourself for your retirement. To start that conversation, give our office a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. So that's the first transformation that we can easily do to dramatically reduce your taxes. And you say, well, dramatic is that's $600. Well, that's a $3,000 expense. If you went $6,000 of expenses, business, you bought a desk, you changed your home office, well, you got rid of the spare bedroom and you made it into a home office, those expenses, those bookcases, the desk you're going to buy, the lighting you're going to buy, the telephone setup, your iPad stand, all that good stuff, your laser printer, scanner, copier, those are all going to be tax deductible expenses to drive your business income negative. And you say, oh, that's a red flag before the IRS. Well, you know what? If you had a valid expense and you showed that it is being 90% or 100% business use because you have no other use for this laser printer, well, then we're going to take that deduction on your tax return. And if the IRS flags you for an audit, no big deal. It's a valid expense. Don't be scared of the Internal Revenue Service, especially if it's a legitimate expense that you are trying to start a business. Now, why do I stress this intent to make a profit? Well, the Internal Revenue Service says that's defining a business. You have the intent to make a profit. Now, if we switch hats and we say, well, I'm going to do this as a hobby, there we need to stop because we cannot actually deduct a hobby loss on your tax return. We can only write off your expenses up to the amount of your hobby income. So again, we can't have a negative coming through on your tax return, even though you have these additional expenses. So again, we counsel our clients to switch this from a hobby to a business, and therefore, if we have a negative in this business, then we can actually reduce down your W-2 income, your interest, your dividends. That's part of this transformation. We are making a thorough and dramatic change to what you're actually doing. Now, as a listener here on the Professional Edge, when is the last time you actually did some tax planning? Not when you're preparing your return on TurboTax or you gather everything up, run down to the corner in the strip center to one of these tax preparation places, or you just bundle it all up, throw it to the CPA, and the CPA comes back and says, yep, you had a great year, you have a refund, or B, it's a terrible year, you owe the Internal Revenue Service a little bit more money. That's not tax planning. That is historical representation of what you just got done doing. So again, it's historical. Now, be proactive and say in 2022, my New Year's resolution is to transform what I am actually doing. That's the impetus for today's show. And again, the impetus is to write this number down, 877-654-9798. That number again is 877-654-9798. And if you're listening to this too on a podcast, just pause it, make a note of it, and then continue on. And we do work with clients outside of the state of Georgia. We have them in California, New Jersey, Indiana, Ohio, in Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky. It's amazing how far this thing is going. And when you start listening to the Professional Edge on a regular, consistent basis and share this, if it makes sense, with one of your colleagues that wants to transform, make a thorough, dramatic change. And again, that change is you having to take that first step. I appreciate you listening here on the Professional Edge. My name's Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. More coming up here on the Professional Edge.